Hello, my name's Steve and you are listening to the Go Footballing Podcast. This is the podcast that talks all about grassroots football, whether you are a coach, a player, a parent, referee, or you just got a love for the game. Sit tight, you're in the right place. So following on from last week's episode, which was all about has the game gone? This week, a lot more interesting, I think it's going to be anyway. It's going to be facts about fitness in football and football fitness for grassroots players. So let's not wait any longer, let's get into it. So let's talk about fitness in football. So, look, as being players and being football players, coaches, you know this. Players, you know this. Parents and referees, you also know this as well. Fitness is a very, very important part of, just sports, but obviously football too. I think that if you were to say to a bunch of kids that are just starting out in football, what do you need to be able to do to be good at football? One of the main things that would come in would be running, and fitness would definitely be some of the things that would come into it. Obviously, look, there's a couple of things that go on top of there. Maybe things like endurance and speed and strength and all the rest of it, which I'm going to talk to you a little bit and just give a couple of facts out. It's going to be a very facts-based kind of episode, this one. It's just going to be firing facts at you and some little pointers, really. So you coaches, you players, just listen up, because it hopefully, even if I just say at least one good thing that'll help you, your sessions, or you as a player or as a parent to talk to your child, or even a referee, that's maybe looking to get more into shape, because a lot of referees, I'm one of them. I don't do this as well, but some referees, they get out of shape in the summer, don't they, when the season's gone and they're not running around anymore at the weekends. So maybe they'll get some of that then too. So I think that fitness as a spectrum, I think it's huge. I think it's massive. If you look at fitness, it doesn't just include running and speed and things like that. It includes a number of other things too. It'll include things like sleep. It'll include things like just general moving. It will include mental capacity, for your fitness too. It'll include a lot of other different aspects. Let's just think about things like food and nutrition as well, nutritional performances, like what do you need to be able to do it? Look, everyone's got their little rituals. Me, personally, when I'm refereeing, I have snack size Skittles that I have in my bag, and I will often trough a half a pack, one of those. I mean, they're the little fun size ones. Let's not just say that I'm having a big share bag to myself at half time, but I'll generally have one of those. And here's a little insider for you if you didn't know. So if you ever go as a referee and you're at a time where you've got other referees with you, which I have, you've got line those, maybe fourth official with you too. It's unwritten rule that the actual ref that's in the middle, not the assistants, not the fourth official, brings sweets. It's just one of those things. I don't even know if it's a thing across the... Let me know if it's a thing across the country, refs. But every single time that I've been, and I've either been an assistant or I've been in the middle, and I've had those assistants and fourth officials there, especially at the cup finals. I've got another cup final coming up in May, by the way, doing the under-17s, under-18s cup in Leicestershire and Rutland. We have to bring sweets with it as well. So look, nutrition. What do you need out of your nutrition as well? Obviously, look, a lot of people will say, nutrition is different depending on what kind of activity you're doing. If you wanted to bulk up, then you'll obviously hear people wanting to have things like protein and protein shakes all the time. But if you are someone who needs to be able to react very fast to you're out all the time like this, carbohydrates that's going to be your main energy for matches. Whilst, protein will help, that will generally help more afterwards for recovery and muscle development afterwards. But carbohydrates when you get it, something to, if you look at those like the pre-workouts as well. If you look at the ingredients that they've got, a lot of them have just got some very, very fast acting carbohydrates in them, things that your body can turn into very quickly. So basically the storage of how things work through your body. I don't know this from being a personal trainer, but basically starts off as sugar, needs to turn into glucose. Your body turns it into glycogen, which is your body's form of like blood sugar, if you like, and then you've got it. Well, basically, what they do is they basically cut that whole process down so that you can react very, very quickly. So if you ever see people that are at the Olympics or doing things and they're itching themselves as well, it opens up a lot of their pores in their skin, and a lot of people get really, really itchy when they're taking them too. I'm not saying that you need to take them, especially for grassroots football, but just a little bit of info really. If I can give a little bit out, then I'm always happy to be able to do that. Another thing that will really help with fitness in football: hydration. You think about how much people drink now. Probably not as much as what they should do. How much have you drank today? And I'm sure that everyone that's listening is going to be like, yeah, I've had 4 litres of water today, I'm good. But, a lot of people don't, and a lot of kids don't as well. With hydration, you can lose about 2% of your body weight in sweat, and that's a massive drop in performance. You just got to think that what's your body made out of mainly? It's mainly made out of water as well, with electrolytes and essential, electrolytes that are in your system. You'll need all of those different things. So, you can have a significant drop in performance and fitness if you're not hydrated. So they're just 2 things before we even get into talking about what we can actually do, and what actually helps. I think with football, just think about how much a footballer can actually run. I saw a video the other day, and it had a NBA court over a full 11-a-side pitch to see the comparison as to how much they were running compared to a footballer. They were amazed. They thought that, they would cover massive distances playing basketball. Obviously it was an American site, but or an American video that I'd seen, and these Americans were absolutely amazed with the size of a football pitch, or a soccer as they were calling it, but really it's football, isn't it? We all know that. A lot of grassroots players can cover 5 to 10 kilometres. I think that even as a ref sometimes I've covered as much as 10k in some games, and I track everything via Ref6, so it's not a little plug for them, by the way, but yeah, I do carry everything by that, but it kind of heat maps me everywhere that I am on the pitch, and it'll also tell me about my sprints and my sprint distances and all those things. But I'm not doing an advert for them, but it is pretty good. To be fair, it's actually a good app just to download even for coaches, because you can put it on there. There's a free version of it if you don't want to subscribe, and you can just go left to right. You can literally just keep scores. It'll keep the times for you, but it'll also do score times, and just in case you want to be able to do it, you can upload photos of club badges and stuff like that, download them, and then you can use them on your socials and stuff. So yeah, it's I can cover that too, but endurance is key. So what are the best ways of getting endurance? Well, for me, it ain't laps. I don't coach in 3 things. I don't coach in lectures. I don't coach in you'd be surprised, wouldn't you, how much I can talk. But I don't coach in lectures. I don't coach in laps either, because I just find that there's better ways of doing it. And also, if people are running laps, are they running at game pace all the way around? Are they doing what you would do in games? Probably not. So what do you do in games? It's very much stop-start, isn't it? Unless you're an absolute box-to-box number 6 that it was also being a number 9 at the same time. You ain't. What you're doing is a lot of interval training. So I incorporate a lot of interval training, especially sort of like pre-season. So that we'll be working very, very hard, and then it'll also go from that interval into interval training all the way through. The stats on interval training are great. If you've ever got time to go and look them up, because I don't want to talk about all of them now, but you get way better results by doing that. It's also more game realistic, because you think, yes, you may have to run a long distance in the game. You might be doing 10 kilometres over 90 minutes. It's not that much. It is a lot, and it isn't a lot, if you know what I mean with that. So yeah, I think that interval training is probably one of the most as well. The people that cover the most amount of distance are definitely going to be midfielders, but for most teams and most teams that I see, and especially when I'm being an official, is that the midfield are the ones that get to come off the most. They're the ones that are getting swapped most. Generally, more people want to play midfield. Especially at grassroots, no one even wants to be a striker. No one wants to be a defender all the time, or left back. No one wants to be a left back or a right back. They just want to be either centre, or they want to be in the middle of the park as well as one of those midfielders. So they're going to get tired quickly, aren't they? So yeah, I think that football and fitness, I definitely think that incorporating interval training, whether that is yellow cone to red cone. Interval training on the street, what a lot of people will do for that if they are getting ready. So if you're a little bit older and you're able to sort of like go out, you're not 5'6" or something like that with players. But if you're a player that's listening, or you're a coach that's got an older team, and your players are saying, oh yeah, I'm going to go out for a run, don't tell them to just run. Tell them to do this on the road. Tell them to run and do intervals with lampposts. If they're on a good road, what they can do is, on the roads, is they can sprint between one or go a bit quicker between one and then rest with the other and then sprint and then run. And even if they are maybe a little bit unfit, maybe they can kind of jog 2, sprint 1, and then wait until their fitness comes up. But it's a really good measure for being able to do it. But you ain't got to measure anything out or count anything or anything like that. You just run as fast as you can between 2 lampposts and then keep on running up the road and then just go a little bit slower and then speed up when you get to the next ones. It's a really, really easy way of being able to get fitness into football. But, if you're outside and you're going to be doing that and your player's going to be doing some pre-season runs out on the road, especially as the weather gets nicer, really, really easy way of being able to get some endurance and also some interval training in for the football and be fitter as a footballer, especially those midfielders, eh? Also, speed, it does matter. I think that the total match movement, these were some stats that I heard when I went on a CPD course, was that around 15% of all total match movement is all sprints. So now, I don't know how they got those figures. I'm imagining that they probably wore the harnesses and they probably wore the tracking data for that as well. But, speed and agility definitely matters in football. And I think that sometimes putting cones out, so we're going from side to side, agility, turn and sprints, short sprints, long sprints, sprints with a change of direction, they're all going to be really, really good for not just agility, but also speed. And, if 15%, potentially for your players that are, in the middle of the pitch, or maybe even wingers as well, maybe going up to maybe 20% of their total movement on the actual game is going to be sprinting. Grassroots players, they're going to need to be able to accelerate quick. Now, what comes with that is a number of different things come with that is, obviously, we want to prevent injuries. So how do we prevent injuries? Well, obviously, warm up correctly and making sure that you're doing the right exercises. Now, obviously, this is an audio only, so I can't particularly go through the movements that you would do, but, you need to be able to think about, if someone is sprinting, what position do they need to be in? How do they change their body shape so that they can start sprinting? So, if you ever go back and look at sprinters, and also I did a podcast on donor sports as well 2 weeks ago. So if you want, go back and listen to that, because that's got some sports in there that also help with fitness in football. But just think about a sprinter. If you think about a sprinter, what position are they in when they're starting to sprint? They're not upright, are they? They start on the floor, but where do they start accelerating, and where can we put that into a football stance? Well, we're probably going to be looking at maybe somewhere between 45 and 60% body leaning forwards to start the sprint off. What's going to take the most amount of impact? Well, the knees are going to take the most amount of impact as well. So obviously making sure that we're doing a lot of stretching, making sure we're doing a lot of movement with the knees so that, again, they're going to become nice and strong, and that we'll be able to push off really quickly and help, 15% of the game on those speeds and sprints. I think that doing mini sprints is great to be able to do. And, you can get those in sometimes. You can get some of those sprints in whilst doing interval training, and I just go back to the lamppost, do it every third one as well. So just do a jog, a medium size, like speed up, and then a sprint, and then you can go from a sprint to cooling down to going a bit quicker, and you can just alternate those too. If you're a bit older and you want a little plan putting together, then that's what I would suggest doing, especially to get some fitness up on running. And you've also got to think that to be a footballer, you're going to have to run. It's not as easy as just getting on a bike or a cross trainer and just, absolutely just lacing it on one of those, because if you do, movement's not quite right for you. So you're going to have some differences in fitness there too. So, but I think that there are definitely some things to look at. There are definitely some things to consider with getting fit. So also, I think that this is getting more and more popular as well. Definitely at the gym that I go to as well, strength training. Strength training massively helps. If you look at the amount of strength training that's being done now, a lot of it is being done to support players. Look, no one wants to miss out leg day. Leg day is what? It's going to help you with speed. It's going to help you with endurance. It's going to make sure that your muscles are well rounded and well balanced for playing sports. So weight training definitely helps. Now, earlier ages, body weight exercises, that's what they'll want to do. Okay, so with the body, There's a process in your bones called ossification. Basically, it's a really boring thing. I could go on a lot about it as well, but basically, when your bones stop growing, that's when they've stopped ossificating. That's really when you should be able to start doing weight training. So that's when they kind of sort of say around the sort of like 14 is the minimum age that you should be doing any kind of weight training, but generally to your body weight. So things like squats, things like lunges, core work, they'll improve overall fitness in the game, but nothing's really going to be being active and being game fit. When you think about being game fit, it's different to just being fit. The same as it is for any sport, really. Who's fitter, a marathon runner or a sprinter? Horses for courses. With that one, nothing's going to get you more game fit than actually playing games, and that's why I'm a massive promoter of small-sided games. That are directional, that have got real purpose to them, because you don't realise how much you're moving and how much you are active within the small sessions that you do with 3v3, 4v4s, overload, wave games, defensive practices, offensive, in possession, out possession, pressing play, playing through, playing round. Those kind of games that you can play really can get you match fit. But yeah, weight training and strength training really helps. I would go more. I would say that call it strength training rather than weight training. Older lads generally can go to the gym, and it's good to see that they're doing that rather than sitting on park benches or anything else they want to do, isn't it? Really, so well done. I like go get in the gym, but for the younger players, definitely would say call it strength training, and again stick to body weight exercises, squats, lunges, press ups, half press ups, those kind of things too. And that's for boys and girls. If you can, your body's designed to hold your body weight, isn't it? So any of those exercises will be absolutely perfect. Just to stop anyone from getting injured when you do come back, especially after the season's about to end, and I'll do some podcasts on season ending and season starting and a tournament episode too. But really want to prevent any kind of injuries. So make sure we do dynamic stretching, make sure we do some static stretching. I think when you've gone through this with your players a couple of times and you do a bit of a warm up as well, you can actually say right hamstrings, and you've shown everyone the once or twice. You can kind of let them do those kind of things, but certain kind of stretches you want to do because you don't want to make further injuries on your body. Like for example, you want to make sure you stretch calves off because you don't want to hurt your back, you don't want to hurt your hamstrings. You don't want to hurt your Achilles tendon. You don't want all that pressure to build up. So, really, really important to do some flexible stretching. Also, what I find when I'm doing stretching with the teams is that stretching time that's your social time in the session. If you want to chat whilst you are stretching, generally I don't have a problem with that because you're stood, you're not doing anything, you don't need to listen, you've already know what to do. I may just have to say to them, switch legs, because it depends how deep in conversation they are, I suppose. So, but yeah, that's a couple of different things. So what else is important for fitness? Well, do you know what? This is something that sometimes parents don't always realise with kids, and there are some rules kind of in place, but it's kind of like really, really loose rules that are given by the FA in England anyway, which is about play minutes and also rest days. They're really crucial. He stops fatigue. In fact, I had one of my one-to-one sessions. His dad messaged in the week and just kind of said he's been playing football a lot. I think he's did a cross-country run, at a very good level as well, by the way. Well done to him. I don't know if his dad listens, but if his dad does listen, he's a little rock star. But his dad was like, I just want to make sure he's not getting fatigued, so I want to keep him out of training for a session. Like, yep, no worries, that's fine. Going to stop any injuries, going to stop any burnout. Parents, they generally know their kids too. As coaches, I think that them. Players don't get overconfident that you can just play every single day without fail, or not competitively anyway. I wouldn't say, if it's kickabout at school, then a bit different, isn't it, to then going and playing 70 minutes on a Saturday and then doing the same training that Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But rest days are really crucial too. And I think for coaches, sometimes you may even want to consider, do we do an easy session this week? Do we do a session that's easy? Or you might be one of those teams that gets to train multiple times a week. Can we put some easy sessions on? Can you put some really hard sessions on? Really, really pound it on with things like interval training, some endurance training, some strength training, one session, and then maybe have a easier session. There's a lot of players that do that. There's a lot of players that will also do that. Because just think, in those sessions, you can also make them way more technical, which is great. And you can also do the mental fitness side of it, which is completely game-changing. You can do visualizations, you can do breathing techniques with players as well, which will really, really help. Probably spend a bit more time doing things like warm-ups as well to reduce things like injuries, to make them really, really structured. There's like 11 plus programs that you can get from FIFA. You can just download them if if you're a little bit stuck with any of those things. You can definitely do them, but it will give your players a little bit of rest, especially if they're playing multiple times a week. So what else can you do to kind of recover? We've talked about those as well. So look, faster recovery. You can get some performance boots and all sorts now, can't you? There's loads of stuff that's out. But, foam rollers, really, really good. Ice baths or cold baths, again, really, really good. I mean, you've probably seen like a lot of boxers and that getting in them. Sometimes they get like a clean wheelie bin, not the one that's just been cleaned out, but they just buy one that's never had rubbish put in it. And they fill it with cold water and ice, and they can get in them to aid recovery, and it'll stop a lot of muscle soreness. What it does is it stops blood flow in certain parts of your body as well, can really help with recovery and prevent a lot of things like soreness and fatigue and DOMS and things like that. It can prevent a lot of those things, or it certainly help anyway. I'm not saying they will definitely do all of that. Another one for fitness as well, because, kind of a bit of explosive power. What are a lot of the players doing a lot of the time? Well, they're jumping as well. So, vertical jumps, practicing things like vertical jumps, really help goalkeepers too. Having maybe your defenders and maybe your strikers with your goalkeeper all in one area, vertical jumps, with some balls going in. Again, you can make that into an easy session, really, can't you? In some ways, you can make that into an easy session, depending on who needs the rest and who doesn't need the rest. But really, really good practice for them being able to do that and getting game fit and match fit and their general fitness of what they're going to be doing. They don't need to head a ball every time. You could just be doing different kind of jumps. You can put that into part of your sprints as well, where you can put some jumps in there. Definitely think that that's something to put into fitness in football. Just mix all of those things up with, like, say, either an ice bath in a wheelie bin if you've got a clean one. I mean, I'm sure that some clubs now, I'd love it if someone could email in and just say, yes, we've now got a club wheelie bin that we get washed out, which is just filled with cold water, and then we just dump the lads in it like it's a sheep dip every week covered in ice and stuff. But, cold shower will also help that kind of recovery too. So just a little bit on what we've been talking about for the last 20 minutes then. I really love the fitness side of football. I absolutely do. I spend a lot of time looking into it and researching it and all the rest of it. And, I can't fit everything in 22 minutes. I just can't, unfortunately. But, I will probably revisit this subject again. If you've got any questions, though, email in. Just get me at gofootballpod@gmail.com. I will be able to answer any of those questions that you've got. I've got great teams around me too that are able to sort of like help with anything that I don't have the answers to. So, I'm more than happy to kind of just feed that information out and do some, podcasts and some, information feedback episodes in between too. So, if the information's coming in and you've got the questions, then more than willing to do that. So you're probably getting close to the end of your journey in the car, so I'm going to stop talking as well. But this episode has been about fitness in football. Next week, I don't know what the episode is going to be next week. I think I might do it on the season ending. It's getting very close to the season ending. So, season ends, business end of the football calendar, the Grassroots one. We'll do one about players getting poached as well, because, this is prime time poaching, isn't it, really, now, end of the season. Some teams know that they've got, going to have struggle for players next season and all the rest of it. So we'll probably do an episode on that. So if you've got any questions regarding the poaching of players, tealing players or anything like that, players moving around, we'll do an episode on that next week. So thanks very much and see you next week.